Good morning. Welcome to another episode of Out from the Cube. Appreciate you visiting, listening, and the support that you've given. It's Monday morning, getting a little bit late start today, but that happens when you have two young children that don't have the correct uniform or the correct things to wear for school, and you got to get that situated. So appreciate you listening. Just to keep in mind, we're doing a different format as well with this, or I guess an additional format to this. We are now also doing this on YouTube. So I don't have a great URL for the YouTube, but it is in the show notes on how you can access the video for the podcast that we're putting out. So please look in the show notes, find the link, subscribe to the YouTube channel if you're interested. We are also splicing up some of the content and dripping that out on the social media platforms. And the reason we're doing that is really, the podcast has been successful up to this point. People are listening, getting great feedback every week. We're getting more and more kind of a discussion and a dialogue and some correspondence with some people that are listening to it. So it's been really valuable to us and to the people that are listening to it. And so because of that, we have decided some other ways that we can reach out, drip some content out to make sure that we are our guests, so that their message, their views, their opinions also get out. So really what has happened is I will have a guest, or somebody will reach out to me, or somebody will want to be on the show. We'll typically have coffee or have a discussion prior to being on the show. And usually, like this past week, I'm going to get into how my week went, but usually when I'm having these conversations, at some point during these meetings, I say to the person that I'm with, boy, I really wish that we had a video camera or a microphone that we recorded what had just happened or the things that we just discussed. And because of that, we want to document these interviews and these questions that we have with our guests, so we can make sure that we can put them on a variety of different channels. So that's really how this has kind of happened. And, you'll see some things on LinkedIn and Twitter and the YouTube channel as well. So we'll just kind of get into it this week. So if you saw on my LinkedIn profile this week, somebody was asking about my notes, how I take notes, but I had a great conversation this past Wednesday or Thursday with a lady that will be on the podcast in the next couple weeks. Her name is Edie. She's phenomenal in the world of teams and leadership and motivation, and really kind of what she calls of emotional intelligence in terms of running teams and leadership and the coaching of business executives. And she is phenomenal. I'm just going to start it right there. Like, she is amazing. And I have had the chance to meet her maybe a year or so ago. I met her at Washington University here in St. Louis. She was involved with the School of Business and Executive Leadership and Executive Training at Washington University, and I got to meet her through that. And then this past week was able to have a cup of coffee with her and discuss some things. And I know you can't see this on the podcast, but if you look at my notes on my LinkedIn profile, I'm holding them up here for the YouTube audience. But these notes here, this sheet was essentially empty. And over an hour and a half or an hour conversation with Edie, I filled this up, both sides, essentially. And it was an amazing conversation. But again, at one point during that conversation, I looked at Edie and said, it's a shame that we did not have a video camera here to record this conversation, because this is exactly what I'm talking about in terms of being selfish and being selfish in that the things that she was saying that helped me get better. But also the people that listen to this on how they can get better. So, and again, I hope to get Edie involved in this. She has agreed to it. And so we hope to just kind of figure out a schedule and some time where her and I can get together. To jump right into it, again, I want to make sure this is clear with the people that listen to the podcast. I study every week, and I read, I listen to podcasts, I watch YouTube videos, and this is typically kind of off hours. It's just the things that really juice me up. It's a reason why I do get up early every day typically, and it's a reason why it'll be late at night, not terribly late at night, because I do get up so early. I'm usually exhausted by 9 o'clock. But during my free time, and even actually on weekends, like this weekend, we had some basketball commitments that started around 9 a.m. on Saturday. But I made sure that I got to a coffee shop somewhere around 7 a.m. on Saturday, just because I wanted to put, some headphones on. I wanted to put some podcasts on and all that. And I just paint that picture simply to say, I just like learning this stuff. I love writing things down. I love learning things. And so the things that we talk about on Mondays is really a recapture and talking about the things that I have considered and learned and that I want to get out to the people that do listen to our podcast. So it's nothing terribly unique. If you listen to the Michael Henson interview from last week, listen, I really think highly of that guy. I really think highly of the direction he's going and how he's knocking things out and how he prioritized and how he sat back one day and said, I need to get out of this cubicle and there's more for me. And I'm willing to, take a step back to take 2 steps forward, that kind of idea. But he said something really great last week. He says, I'm not coming up with anything terribly unique. I'm not saying things to his audience that is unique, that everybody's just going to say, bust through a wall because of something unique Michael had said. And what he did say was, I'm just re-saying, I am regurgitating essentially things that everybody knows, that we all know, that maybe we haven't heard in a while, or we haven't heard it in this context, or we just needed to hear it again to get us motivated. So along the same lines as what Michael said last week, it is some of this stuff, most of this stuff is not new that we talk about, but it's maybe just hearing it a little different, hearing it in a different way, maybe with a different story, or maybe just hearing it again, that maybe can juice us up. And that's what it is for me. A lot of this stuff that I have seen here from this past week, I've just heard it a little bit different, whether that be from Michael Henson last week, or from Edie and a cup of coffee, or from Gary Vee, or from Andy Frisella, or from Tim Ferriss, these other people I listen to, or from a particular coach. But so I say that to kind of get things going, that I heard something this week from Tim Tebow. Tim Tebow, if you do not know who he is, he's 2 jobs now. One, he was a college football player, some regarded as maybe one of the greatest college football players of all time. He ended up not making it in the NFL. He was drafted in the first round as a quarterback, and he lasted 2 or 3 years, 3 or 4 years possibly, and just did not make it and wasn't good enough and really wanted to be a quarterback and didn't want to switch positions. So now he finds himself out of the league. But he now works as a college football analyst, but he also decided to take a run at being a professional baseball player. So I think he's playing Double-A baseball, hasn't played baseball since high school, and is now making a go of it as a professional baseball player. So, but what the story, I heard him in a talk this week, and it really resonated with me, and it was actually a spiritual talk. I'm not going down the spiritual route with it, but I want you to consider what he said in the context of what he said it, and think about how it resonates with you. What if you were in a football game or a basketball game? And just think of this mindset, and then think about it, and then we'll pivot to your business and being in a cube and being a leader and trying to sell a motivation tactic for your team. But if you were in a football game and it were the second half and you were down 34 points, what if at the start of that half, you knew without question, you already knew at the start of the second half, down 37 points or 40 points or whatever it might be, he, I think, said 50 or something along those lines, that you knew without question you were going to win that game. You had already seen it play out. And you knew you were going to win the game. And you had given a bad effort. Things had not gone your way. You're getting your tail beat. You're down 40 points. You're throwing interceptions, and they're running all over you. They're doing whatever they want. But you knew you were going to win. What would your mindset be? How would you approach the next play? What kind of enthusiasm, focus, determination, energy, commitment, all that, what would you have if you knew you were going to win? Right? And he gives a spiritual thing around that. Here's what I challenge you to do. We talked, I know how things are going to turn out. I know that we're going to be successful. I know that we're going to release a great product, make a great sale, get the right client, do all these things. Even if you're not doing well right now, even if things aren't going well, this is me as a coach with my coaching hat on. When you know when you're getting your tail beat and you are going to lose and you kind of know it, how morale, and intensity and focus and determination and team stuff, being together, body language, all that goes downhill so fast. So I used to say with my teams, I can tell, I knew the second, I knew the moment where we were going to lose. And it was body language, attitude, commitment, focus, work ethic, all that sort of stuff, all those little phrases. When all that just goes down, when it goes from a 10 at the start of the game to around a 0 when you know you're getting beat. But on that scale of 0 or 1 to 10, on those things that I just mentioned, if you knew you were going to win and you were getting your tail beat and you were still performing at a level of a 10, what that would look like. Now, we've all seen people come back. We've all seen people that you knew were going to lose, that were getting their tails beat, that ended up coming back and winning. And it's not about sports. I'm not trying to make it's a sport analogy. I get it. And it's a sport metaphor, but I'm telling you, it's not about sport. It is about not getting the client, not getting the sale, not getting the employee, having people leave your business that were valuable employees. It's about, all this sort of stuff. It's about going out to a client and not having it go well and having them say, you know what, you're not that good, and just being down and saying, I'm not good. I'm not good enough. I'm not doing well. Instead of saying, you know what, let's go to the next play. There are coaches that always talk about the next play. Forget about it. And learn from it, get better, get to the next play. And I think about that in business. When we talk about the next play mentality, how are you with your teams? Think about your teams and how you motivate and get them refocused, and don't dwell on things that don't go well or don't go your way. Missing a sale, missing a client, not doing great at a client, not having current existing customers come back to you, not getting to be able to hire the right people or having the people you really need and that enhance your team and that are your superstars on your team if they leave and go somewhere else, right? But do you focus on the next play, the next meeting, the next sales call, the next client engagement, the next conversation on a phone? Do you refocus yourself and your team to win? Because you know, even though you're down 30, that you know that you can come back because you know the outcome. So I said this with Michael Henson last week, where I said at the end of that conversation, I was like, Michael, I'm really excited about this for you because I know exactly how this will end for you. Like, I see it in him. I felt it in him. I felt the energy. I felt his commitment. I saw what he's currently doing. I've watched his videos. I know who he's connected to. I know that he's grinding every day. Hey, I know it's hard right now. I know maybe you're not getting the wins you want or need, or maybe it doesn't happen every day, but maybe it happens over 2 weeks, 4 weeks. But are you willing to grind it out? He said something that Gary Vee says, and to always keep, not to always keep quoting Gary Vee, but he said essentially that you have to have macro patience. You need to be going long term. Like, hey, the podcast, like I'm on 32, 33 episodes with the podcast. Man, it's slowly getting better. And if I say, you know what, let's see where we're at 100. Let's just see where we're at 100, starting the YouTube channel. People are subscribing. People are giving feedback. People are like, let's see where we're at 100. I'm willing to stretch that success out. I'm willing to stretch that grind out, even if nobody listens over the next while, because macro patience to it, but the micro hustle is what Michael says. And it came from Gary Vee, that you are hustling hard, that there's a speed to it every day, that you're grinding it out, trying to get better, but you know it's going to take a long time. So you know the outcome. And I thought that from Tim Tebow, that was really good. And I really liked it. Because even though we may be losing and we may be down and our body language isn't going to change, our attitude's not going to change, our focus isn't going to change, but we are going to grind it every single day because we know where it's coming from. Just to give another sport analogy, I was watching college football this weekend and for a little bit watched the UCLA play. UCLA has a brand new coach. That coach is going to get his tail kicked this year. He is, probably. He's 0-2. He just lost. He lost to Cincinnati. He lost to Oklahoma. So he lost 2 games. His name is Chip Kelly. Chip Kelly built up the University of Oregon to what it is now. Oregon is regarded as an elite premier college football program. It has dropped since he's left. But when he was there, they played for the national championship. Everybody wanted to go to school there. And then he left because he wanted to try the NFL. It did not work. He was not successful in the NFL. So because he was not successful, he's ended up back in college. Now he's at UCLA, and UCLA is a power in basketball, but they are not in football. And so he is getting his tail beat. And I was watching that game this weekend, and I was watching him. And I just kept thinking about this when I was watching him. He's going to get that sucker turned around. And it's probably not this year. He is probably going to – can he win 6 games? Can he win 5 games? He's not winning 11 games. But in 3 years, is he? In 4 years, is he? Can he get that program to be in the college football playoff? And I'm sitting around going, that sucker is going to do that. He's going to turn around that program that has never been good in football, and he's going to do it because he knows the process. He knows that the lessons that he is teaching those players, the conversations he's having with the guy that's a freshman, a sophomore, and them getting their tail beat, and how he is communicating to them to say, hey, listen, I know it's hard right now. I know we're getting our tails beat, but we're going to stay with the basics, the fundamentals. We're going to grind it out on the simple things. We're going to be great at these things. This works. Stay with the process, because when you are a junior and a senior, and when we recruit the right types of players, we are going to be phenomenal. Now, that is another sport analogy. But if you're getting your tail beat right now and you're sitting around saying this process works, what we're doing matters today, and that we may not get this client, this sale, this employee to come commit to us, to come work for us, but I know in 2 years we will. And we'll have the right people, because this works. We treat people the right way. We get the right clients. We know how to sell. We know the basics. We know the process, and we're going to grind this sucker out. And so I know big sports analogies to start it, but I really liked Tim Tebow. And again, my mind and how I work, this is just me. Whenever I watch sports, or whenever I'm reading or watching things on TV, I'm so interested in how teams work, team dynamics, and I'm so interested in how leaders communicate. And I'm not going to get this right, but you talk about mistakes and things not going right. Think about this, and if I get it right, I'm going to ask for you to write it down. I think you should write this down if I get it right. And again, not original, but something that stuck with me as I kind of learned this. Admit it, accept it, learn from it, and move on. I think that's the job of a leader. Those 4 things. When mistakes happen, when things don't go your way, when you lose a client, when you lose an employee, when you interview and the right person doesn't come to you because he thinks another place is better. If you're recruiting and you're a college coach and players don't come your way, you need to evaluate everything that's going on with your program, with your teams, with your business, with your sales teams, with everything. And you need to evaluate the good and the bad, and what's going on with those with the winning and the losing. Because I would always sit back and say, we got the best recruit we could possibly get on our campus, and we didn't get him. We had one of the best technical people in town in our office on an interview, and he chose not to come with us, not to work for us. Why? Admit it. Admit what happened. It's okay. This is a kind of a mistakes thing, and I think it came from Coach Don Meyer. But admit it. It's okay to admit your mistakes. It's okay to say we messed up. It's not okay to sulk, blame, criticize, point fingers, separate the team into 2 waves. It's not okay to do any of that, but just admit it. That's the first step. With your kids, like a lot of what I think about has to do with what I want my kids, the things I say to my kids, the things I want my kids to learn, and then try to incorporate that stuff into my life. I would want my kids that make mistakes to admit it. Like step 1, don't we want our children to just admit when they make mistakes? So it's okay for you and your teams to do that. Then accept it. It's okay. Admit it. I accept what happened. Meaning I accept the responsibility. I own it. If you have the best guy or one of your best people leave, or if you don't get a client, Or if a client is not happy with what you did, sit back and say, I accept it. I own it. I can own the mistake, which means I own a solution and fixing the problem. Admit it, accept it. Third thing, learn from it. Learn. So if you're having retros, if you have an IT team and you're sitting around having retrospectives at the end of a sprint or whatever it might be, admit it, accept it, learn from it. Learn. Okay? Watched a video early this morning. I watched a video of Lewis Howes. I have not watched the whole thing, and this is the one time where I'm saying you need to watch this. Go find Lewis Howes' interview with Kobe Bryant. I'm not sure how long it is. I think it's long, which is perfect. Go watch the video with Lewis Howes and Kobe Bryant. I watched an excerpt of it today, and Lewis Howes asked my opinion now. I was not a huge Kobe Bryant fan when he played. I think he's phenomenal now. What he's doing with his life and watching his game and watching how hard he worked and watching how competitive he was. I think that's like, I'm fascinated by Kobe Bryant, especially what he's doing now post-basketball. That's another story, another podcast. But essentially what he said, Lewis Howes asked him, how much did you hate losing? And he may have said it this way. I may not get it right, but the idea is he essentially said, I didn't like it, but I didn't mind it because I knew that there were so many opportunities to get better. There were solutions in those failures. And I wanted to learn. I wanted to go back to the film. I wanted to go back to the team. I wanted to go back into the meeting room. I wanted to go back on the practice floor. I wanted to get back to the next game so I could sit there and get better. And he was driven by that. Admit it, accept it, learn from it. If I tell my teams that I work with professionally and off hours with some basketball groups that we work with, it is okay to fail. And let's fail fast. We've all heard that. Fail fast. Get feedback quickly. Learn, and adjust. Adjust and adapt and figure out things that don't work. I would also do that with your successes. Sit down and say, what did we do well? We won. That's what you do after a game. If you're coaching and you sit there and say, man, what do we need to continue to do? And how can we get better at those strengths? What can we emphasize more relative to those strengths and those wins so we can get better? I think that's, again, I get juiced up about this stuff, but it's not necessarily new to me. I just like hearing this stuff again, and it holds me accountable to some of this stuff. But learn and fail fast. Figure out where you're not strong, how you can adjust a game plan. You could sit there and say, you know what, we lost this client. We need to make sure that guy is not necessarily in that position. His skill set may be better for this. He can really excel here. And if we make one subtle shift with maybe how we position people or place people or who leads a discussion or who we bring in to close or how quickly we bring in somebody to close. Like, I would always be evaluating everything that we do so we can get better. And I would figure out a way to do that every week, every 2 weeks. And I would take notes nonstop on everything we're doing so we can circle back to it and figure out how to get better. Admit it, accept it, learn from it. And the last one is the hardest one, I think, for teams that are not elite. And I'm not talking necessarily sport. This is business. This is any team you're on. The last one is you got to move on. Okay? Accept it, learn from it, and move on. Move on. So how many times do we sit with failures, with mistakes, with losses? And a loss is not just a sport term. We have losses. Our company, we have losses. The reality of our company and where we work and the losses that we take on is that there's no blame to it. It's us. It's together. And it's how can we get better? Who can we place where? How can we communicate better? How can we motivate? How can we train? What does that person need to get better? How can we make sure this doesn't? How can we accept it, learn from it, and move on? Okay? Accept it, learn from it, and move on. Okay? Admit it. I'm forgetting the first one, that we have to admit. Admit it, accept it, learn from it, and move on. How many of you on your teams are still reeling from a loss a month ago? If you can't move on, then you're not learning. It's okay, I think, in my mind, It's okay to get the losses. It's okay. Now, if you're sitting around and you're 0-20, then you've just, hopefully that's a long running process. If it's a business and you're 0-20, I hope you stay in business, because at some point you need the wins. You need the wins. You need the at-bats. You need the wins, and you need to make sure that you have money coming in, because I understand that's what business is driven off of. Okay, so again, probably got sidetracked there, but admit it, accept it, learn from it, move on, and especially as the leader, make sure your team has moved on. Make sure you are not the leader that continues to bring up past failures, past losses. You learn from it. You come up with a strategy to get the next win, the next game plan. And then once that's done, it's done. Okay, you can't sit there and say, hey, listen, Johnny, you remember you missed that shot there that cost us that game, or remember so-and-so you wouldn't defend, or remember you went into that sales call and you blew it because you didn't close correctly, or you didn't sell it in the way that you need to, or you weren't persistent enough to continue to call, or whatever it is, or to follow up, or to be authentic, or whatever the values are of you and your sales team, that you didn't do it. Remember when you didn't do that? As opposed to, hey, we're moving forward. We're going to get better at these 4 or 5 things. We're going to continue to grind, and we're going to continue to get better. Okay? Here's a couple things on this. Okay? Again, I'm holding this up. Look, this is how I kind of do things. I'm holding this up for our YouTube audience, but I sit there with my list, and you can see that I write things down here that strike me, and then I highlight the things that I need to consider, want to implement, and that may hold a special meaning in my mind that I need to do for myself. Okay, the one thing here that I wrote down at the start of the week was, in order to have a special life, you have to do special things. You have to just be a little different, push a little harder, do something special. You know, we've all heard the phrase, of the extraordinary life, just doing ordinary things, but being just a little bit different, a little extraordinary with some things, just doing those things. But to have a special life, you have to do special things. And I hope that I hope right now for you and for me, it's Monday. It's 8:24 in the morning. I hope that every single one of you is excited about Monday. For you that are driving in and listening to this, that I know are on the West Coast, and I have some friends now, not friends now, but I have friends that I've had for years that are on the West Coast in San Francisco and Portland and Washington and Seattle, that they've reached out to me the past couple of weeks. I listen to you every morning when I'm driving in, which is awesome. Awesome. But man, I hope it's Monday and you're driving in and you're juiced up about the week, because I hope that you sit and realize the great things that are going to happen this week. So this is not in my notes, but I said this a few weeks ago. This is something I used to do, and I want you to consider it. And I need to get back in the habit of doing this. I think, and I've said this before in another podcast, but it struck me this weekend. I think at least 3 miracles or crazy great things happen to us every day. At least 3. Amazing opportunities, amazing circumstances, amazing miracles, if you want, happen every single day to us. The reality is we get so blind to it. We get so blind to the ordinary grind of every day of things happening that we never sit back and notice these great things that happen. And I think there's a few things about that resonate with me. And this is, again, talk for me. I hope you get something out of it. I think here today on Monday, I'm excited about the day because I know 3 great things are happening. So I immediately am excited about the day. And when I open my eyes, at whatever time I open my eyes, I know moving forward than today that no less than 3 great things are going to happen to me. 2, my eyes are now open to all the great things that are going to happen to me today. I can already tell you 1. I'm a split family, okay? That my kids are with me half the time. They are not with me this morning. They were not with me. They were with their mother, okay? Their mother came to the house because they needed something in my house. I think that's number 1. Bam. I think right off the gate, my eyes are open. I'm like, man, I got to see my kids this morning. Man, and they were They were ready for the school day. I was able to encourage them. I was able to hug them. I was able to kiss them. I was able to tell them I love them. I was able to get them focused on the day at school so that they could focus on their academics. I was able to tell them about the great things that are going to happen tonight when we're together. That's one. Like, and I appreciate those small things that happen because my eyes are open to them. And I wake my eyes up every day knowing they're coming, right? And I think there's phenomenal things. I could sit there and say I got a great message. I woke up at 4:30 and looked at my phone and got some messages. I got a great message this morning that I wasn't expecting. Number 2. So all I'm saying is, 1, wake up every day knowing that at least 3 great things are going to happen. 2, open your eyes to those great things because they're always happening. And then what's that do? This is all, again, for me, and I hope you get something out of it. 2, it opens up my heart to being more grateful for everything that's going on. I'm so grateful I saw my kids this morning. I'm so grateful I have those kids. I'm so grateful that those kids are doing so well. I'm so grateful that they have the mother they have and that the basketball that we get to do and all these grateful things that I have just around that one thing. Okay. But if I'm open to those things, boy, great things are going to happen. So how does that deal with business and motivation and leadership and business and teams and all that? Is you need to roll into your teams today and just be super excited about the great things that are going to happen. You need to be open to it. You need to know that you need to maybe be that person for your team. Like, I'm going to make sure that they know the great things that are going on. I need them. I got to circle back around. I got a message this morning. It was a great message about on LinkedIn, about some business, about some podcasts, about some things going on. It was phenomenal. Loved it. Okay. Somebody brought that to me. It was phenomenal. What about you bringing that to somebody else this week? What about you being that message, that delivery, that miracle, that uplifting thing to get somebody going? I encourage, and this is, again, not just for you, it's for me. I'm going to figure out a way to bring that to somebody on my team this week. I should even be better than that and say, I'm going to do whatever I can today to bring that to somebody today. And they may not even know it. And they may not even receive it. And they may not even take it and do anything with it. They may roll their eyes and say that's garbage, or it may just go one in and out the other, not be a big deal. But that's on them. It's on me to make sure that people know I appreciate them, that they're doing great work, that I'm so excited they're a part of the team, that they provide so much value, that we are as good as we are because of them, that if you are a coach, put your arm around some. This happened this weekend. I'm not, this isn't a pat on the back. It just gets me excited about things. We had a game this weekend. I know they're sport analogies. We had a new kid play with us, brand new to the team. We played the toughest team in the league that loses like once a year. And we beat them by 10. It was great. So granted, listen, we're talking about we're talking about 10-year-old basketball. But it was awesome. Watching the excitement of those kids. We won by 10. That team never loses. It was really competitive. It was kind of a packed gym for a 10-year-old game. It was awesome. And towards the end of the game, this new kid came off. And I put my arm around him. And he was really good. And I got real close to his ear and I said, listen, I don't want there to be any confusion about this. We won this game because you were so good defensively. Do you understand that? Yes, coach. Yes, coach. Like, you were that good. You guarded their best player the whole game. And you were amazing. And you may not have scored much. He kind of did. He didn't score a ton, but he scored a little bit. But I sat there and said, don't underestimate how important the role is that you did for us today. You defended their best player. He didn't score. He got into foul trouble. He was frustrated. He took bad shots, all because of you. What's that have to do with business? Put your arm around somebody today, if you're allowed to. Say, man, I tell you what, you are so valuable to us. Some of the stuff you do doesn't get recognized, noticed, or appreciated, but I see it, and it's valuable. And the reason we're as good as we were today, last week, last sprint, last sales call, last whatever, is because you're so stinking good. And make somebody feel that way in a role that may not be as magnified, as visible, or maybe even as valuable to the team at large. I'm telling you, those are team builders, those are people builders, and those are the things that you need to do. I think it's really good. And again, that's on me. That's on me. I hope it's on you. You all have a team. You are all on a team. And you may not have that role. You may not think that's your role. But what if we had a team where everybody was like that and it was authentic? You can't be rolling around all Pollyanna, slapping each other on the back, getting your tails beat 47-0, saying how great everybody is. I understand that. But find out those teachable moments, those coachable moments, those leadership moments where you bring somebody into your office. Hey, I just want you to know last week was awesome. And we struggled with X, Y, and Z, but you were really good at this. And I think we're going to have a great week this week. And I'm really excited about the role you have in that. And I just want you to know how much I appreciate you. I think that stuff's big time. I wrote this down from Edie last week. As much as I probably quote Gary Vee with all the notes that I got from Edie last week, and as much as I hope she's going to be on our podcast, listen, when the podcast with Edie drops, you are going to love that. I don't know. I'm 45. I don't know if I've ever met anybody as intelligent, passionate, articulate, can tell a story, can paint a message that is visible as well as this lady. And she's phenomenal. And, if she wanted to be, and I don't know what her goals and actions are and where she wants to be, man, she could be in front of 20,000 giving a message, and everybody would walk out of there uplifted, more powerful in their thoughts and delivery and who they want to be. It was amazing. But listen, I got a ton of notes here from her, and I don't want to steal too many of them because I want her on, and we want to come back to this. It's what we think we're not that kills us. That's a quote from her. It's what we think we're not that essentially kills us. Now, what's that mean? It's what we think we're not that essentially is going to kill us. What's that mean to you? Man, I sit around and think about what I'm not. I think about the things I'd like to be, who I'd like to be, who I'd like to be connected with, who I need in my life, how I can get to this next point. It's what I think I'm not. And that's what kills us. And that's what kills us in our drive, our ambition, our motivation, our willingness to get outside our comfort zone, to stretch ourselves to be better. It's what we think we're not. That kills us. Okay? So to my buddy that's in San Francisco, right? Put that on your screen. Okay? I have a buddy that puts show notes on his screen. And that's I think that's great. It's great. Listen, it's great that we can have some thoughts and some discussion and dialogue and think about things in such a way that we can write stuff down. We can put things in front of us every day to figure out just a small little thing to get better. We talked about the 1% mindset. 1%. 1%. I used to do one like this when I coached. For those on the YouTube channel can see. And it's a habit. For those listening on the podcast, I have my middle finger in the air. I used to point in coaching with my middle finger, and then when I say one, I would always put. And then my 8-year-old son told me to quit doing it. So the 1% mindset. 1% mindset is just figuring out a little dials, adjusting the dials a little bit to get better today. Because where will you be a year from now? Who will you be a year from now if you just adjust one thing a day? And don't get discouraged with it. Okay, the 1% mindset. It's what we think we're not that kills us. And I would think, instead of thinking about who we will be, if you came and watched me work with a team, the one thing I say over and over again that is now repeated over and over again by these people that I work with, it's not where we're at, it is where we will be. It's not where we're at right now. Don't focus on where you're at. Don't focus at all with where you're at. Figure out the dials that need to be adjusted so we can get better, so it is who we will become and who we will be. Who do you know who you are going to be? We've talked about the 10-year bio. Your 10-year LinkedIn bio. That's who you will be. Now, you got 10 years. 1% mindset every day, every grind, every situation. 3 miracles a day. 3 great things are happening today. So to circle back to that real quick, because I did forget this. Here's my challenge to myself. Hold me accountable to this, because I know the people that listen will. They'll reach out to me. They'll say, did you do it? Did you do it? all this week, I'm going to get back in the mindset in this book. People have asked about how I do my goals and all this. In this book, it's a mid-sized black book. So it's not my little black book. It's my mid-sized black book. I'm going to write down every day the 3 great things that happen every day in this. Okay. This is my goal, and I'm not going to show it, but those on LinkedIn or those on the YouTube channel can see it. And it's always with me, although I went and had drinks with some friends on Friday night, and they asked me that listened to the podcast. They were like, where's your book? How are you not taking notes? So, I guess you can't take your notes always to a bar, I guess. It kind of looks funny. If it's what we think we're not that kills us and that stops us. And Tony Robbins talks about limiting beliefs. I hope that you limit your limiting beliefs. I hope that you can eliminate your limiting beliefs. I sit and work with people and say we're going to do these great things, and I think I'm decent at trying to get people juiced up and jazzed up about the week, the day, direction, outcomes, all that sort of stuff that we talk about. And they get super excited, and then we talk about it, and they sit there and rattle off 4, 5, 10. I've heard 10 reasons why they can't. So I'm going to say, I try not to cuss too much on my podcast, but this is a quote from LeBron James. LeBron James had this quote this week. If you saw it in my notes, you may have actually seen it on Instagram. So here's my Instagram plug. Go to Out From The Cube on Instagram and follow me. I'm going to start putting more stuff on Instagram as well. LeBron James quote, "You know what I'm sick of? I'm sick of I can't. Try, fail, and then try that shit again. You know what I'm sick of is I can't. Try it, fail at it, and then try that shit again until you get it right. Try, fail, and then try it again. Try it again. Okay? So think about those things. It's what we think we're not. And then focus on where you will be. Okay? Real quick on a couple other things. The root. Okay, let me go back to this one. This is, I forget who this is from, but you kind of know the cast of characters that I kind of listen to. You are running a business every day, and that business is you. That business is you. You are that business. And I used to think about this years ago and never really wrote it down, and it just popped into my head because I did used to think this way. If you were a business and you talk about stock market going up and down and all that, what's your stock line look like? Are you trending up, trending down? What's your stock look like? If that business is you, I know my pitfalls. I know my shortcomings. I know when I fail. I know when this starts to go down. Now, is that going to crash? Is your business of you crashing? If it is, if it's crashing, if it's not what you want to be doing, if you're not satisfied, if you're not fulfilled, if you're not contributing, if you don't think you're of value, if you're not excited about Mondays and getting after it and knowing that 3 great things are going to happen today, and if you're crashing, then you need to get some small wins. You need to create a little bit of momentum. You need to get up a little bit earlier. You need to plan your day. You need to come up with 3, 4, 5 things every day that are small chunks so you can get some momentum and get that stock line moving up. You are in the business, and that business is you. And my hope is for me, and maybe we're harder on ourselves, but I hope that line of me is moving up. And I know it's going to go down, but I'm going to adjust it. I'm going to correct it. I'm going to look for those 3 great things every day, and that sucker's going to be moving up. And then you know what you do? You get people to buy into that stock ticker. You get people to buy in to the direction of the business of you, because people want to be around greatness. Greatness, great things, great people, great direction, great outcomes, great motivation. They want to be, and people will flock to you, and people will want to be on that train, and people will appreciate you, and people will find more value in you, and then your stock continues to go up, and all you did was chunk things up and creates a little bit of momentum. So I think those are understand I run this podcast to a certain extent to juice myself up. It's Monday. Now it's 8:41. I am super excited about the week right now. Just by doing this podcast, just by knowing man, I just know 3 great things are going to happen today. I know it. I know great things are going to happen, right? Let me leave you with this, okay? And we'll wrap things up a little bit. Think about this, though. I love this quote, and it did come from Edie. And I'm going to say the quote and we'll talk about it. What do I want this person to look like after an engagement with me? What do I want this person to look like after an engagement with me? So what's that mean? That engagement is a one-on-one, a team meeting, a client meeting, having coffee with somebody, being on a phone with somebody, having a one-on-one with somebody, doing whatever. Even if you are with your boss, what do you want that person to look like when that conversation is over? I thought that was profound, and I thought it was amazing. If we had that mindset, like, hey, when I have this meeting today with this person, I want to make sure that this person is excited, enthusiastic, knows that I'm capable, knows that I can deliver, knows that I'm valuable, that they feel good about the decision of being with me or having me on their team, or that person is juiced up to go finish their day, complete something. Like, I want that person to have that type of engagement. I want them to look like that. And if you rolled into every situation like that and you said, when this thing is done, I want that person, that 1% that person needs is coming from me. If we are talking about a 1% mindset, 1% better every day, what if we had the mindset of delivering that 1% to somebody else? What if you said in every conversation with the people you're with to get out of your cube and do all the stuff we've talked about, I'm going to be that person. I'm going to be the person to shift that person. I'm giving that person their 1%. Write that down. I'll deliver the 1%. I'm going to be the person to deliver the 1% to somebody else. What do I want this person to look like after an engagement with me? And here's a thing that may kind of go along with this a little bit. What if everybody you met, you knew, was going to wind up being your best friend? So think about that. I know we're old typically that listen to this, and best friends and using phrases like that may be too high schoolish, but listen, you understand that the idea. What if everybody you met, even for the first time, you're all going to meet somebody. If you go to a networking event, if you go anywhere this week where you meet somebody for the first time, if you had the mindset, this person I just met, that I'm currently talking with, that I am currently having an exchange with, this person will wind up being one of the closest people in my life. If you have that mindset, how would that conversation change? How would you treat them differently? How would you want to give to them? Okay, I think I heard that somewhere and I really liked it. And I try to do that, although I forget most of the time. But when I do, it's amazing. It's an amazingly different kind of conversation and connection. And now do it with the people that you're even with, that you work with, that are on your team, your sales team, that you work with every day. Or what if it's a client that you're with? What if you're working for a client and you say, you know what, I may only be with this client for another month, but so-and-so at this client, he's going to wind up being somebody that I connected with the rest of my life. And it has nothing to do with sales or business or money or ROI. It has to just be connected with people. And that relationship will be so much different if we have that mindset. All of them. And this isn't a Pollyanna type podcast and all that, but I love the idea of getting out of our cube, of getting out and meeting people, about trying to figure out how to connect with people. And I'll tell you what, I just really believe about building an army, about having people that have your back, about building your network. Although when I have Edie on, she'll tell us why we need to quit using that word. And the ability to meet people, to learn, to connect, to contribute to a 1% mindset and doing all these great things to improve our lives, work-wise, professionally, with your families, with your kids, with your community, with the people around. And if you just rolled around and everybody was your best friend and you went to every engagement with that in mind, how different our relationships could be moving forward, and with our teams. So listen, I know I didn't get to all this, and the reason why, if you're looking on YouTube, you can see this, that there's a lot highlighted here that I want to get to, but we're essentially going to get to most of that when I have Edie on in the next couple weeks. Have a great guest lined up this week. If you're listening to this podcast Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, I'm actually bringing on a guest that reached out to me and that we've connected on LinkedIn. I've watched him on YouTube with some of his. We've never met up to this point, Monday. Haven't really even talked to him other than some stuff on LinkedIn. But I've seen him online, and I was fascinated by his message, his delivery, his enthusiasm, the direction he's going, who he's kind of engaging with. I love it. And part of me really likes having conversations with people for the first time. Some of the best things I would like to do haven't really happened. I haven't had them recorded. And so this first engagement with this gentleman will be the first time. So a few things. Subscribe to the YouTube channel. If you've made it this far, I have a YouTube channel. The show notes will have the URL. It'll also have a URL to subscribe. People are starting to subscribe, and I really appreciate it. I've got a better backdrop this time than I had the last time. I was in my basement last time. Now I'm in the living room. At one point, we'll maybe find a better place, but this is suitable for now. So subscribe to YouTube. I'd really appreciate it. If you're watching this on YouTube, subscribe. I've seen people do this before. I'm pointing down, subscribe. Okay? Share it, subscribe to it, follow us on, you can also now follow us on Instagram. Out from the Cube on Instagram. Would love it if you'd subscribe to that. I'm not putting a ton of stuff out there, but we're figuring out the message. We're figuring out the delivery. We're figuring out the platforms that we need to get stuff out. And really, it's just to get the stuff out we're learning. And how we can get better. And the support we're getting from this has been great. Listen, let's not be the people that don't like 4 days out of 7. 4 out of 7. There are people that live for Friday, Saturday, Sundays, and I get it. It's your time. It's away from the job time. I get all that. But there should be so much excitement Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. And my hope for you is that you find that excitement, that you get engaged, you get connected, that the message maybe from this podcast and what resonates with me is the 1% mindset. But can you please be the 1% for somebody else? Give 1% to somebody else. Be that person. Okay? Be that person and engage somebody else and be that person for somebody else. What would this look like? What do I want this person to look like after this engagement with me? Listen, really appreciate the support. Podcast is doing great. YouTube is kicking up. I'm excited about the 4 out of 7. Let's be more excited about the 4 out of 7. Again, I can ramble a bit, but now I'm just kind of hitting home the points in my mind as we move forward with the week. The 4 out of 7, the Monday, the Tuesday, the Wednesday, the Thursday. Those are the days that I am most juiced up, most excited. Those are the days that we can do the most, and I'm going to figure out a way to provide more to somebody else. If we can do anything, and when I say we, I'm talking about me, our company, Polaris. Again, discussion, business, teams, leadership, whatever it might be. If there's anything we can do to help you, please reach out to us. You know how to track us down. Now we are on Instagram. We are on YouTube. You know my Twitter. You know how to connect with me on LinkedIn. And I will say this. Here's what I'm going to end with. No less than 3 great things are going to happen to everybody that's listening to this. No less than 3 great things are happening to you today. Be excited about it and open your eyes to it. Because I am. I've already got 4. I could count probably 4 things this morning at 8:51 that have happened. I've already shared 1. And I know that more great things are going to happen, and I'm super excited about it because at the end of the day, I'm going to write those things down in the black book. I'm going to write them down. That way I can be grateful for them, and that way I can be juiced up about the next day, the great things that are going to happen tomorrow. And that's going to get me juiced up about Tuesday. And the next day, I'm going to even be more juiced up because I know at least 3 great things are going to happen Wednesday. Then on Thursday, 3 things are going to happen. And then I'm ready for the family and all the other stuff that we probably do on weekends and the activities, engagements that we have outside of our professional lives. But look for them today. That's my ask of you today. My only ask of you today is to open your eyes to the 3 great things that are going to happen because they are happening. Listen, have a great week. and reach out to me, stay connected with me, and subscribe to us on all the channels. And we will see you on Thursday with a great guest I'm super excited about. Enjoy your week and just crush it.